Τελευταία πριν το διάλειμμα παρουσίαση. Θα γίνει από τον κύριο Σπύρο Κουλούρη. Στα αγγλικά θα είναι αυτή η παρουσίαση. Linked Open Libraries, Archives and Museums in Pharos, the International Association of Photo Archives. Ο Σπύρος Κουλούρης είναι ιστορικός τέχνης και επιστήμονας πληροφόρησης. Ολοκλήρωσε τις σπουδές του στο Πανεπιστήμιο της Φλωρεντίας και στο Simmons College της Βοστόνης, ενώ έχει εργαστεί σε βιβλιοθήκες και αρχεία σε Ευρώπη και Αμερική. Αυτή την περίοδο εργάζεται σαν βιβλιοθηκονόμος στη Βιβλιοθήκη της Τράπεζας της Ελλάδος, ενώ ταυτόχρονα είναι ο Metadata Manager της Pharos ArtResearch Project. Τα επιστημονικά του ενδιαφέροντα περιλαμβάνουν τις ειδικές βιβλιοθήκες, τα διασυνδεδεμένα δεδομένα και τον ψηφιακό μετασχηματισμό των βιβλιοθηκών. Παρακαλώ.
Καλημέρα σε όλους. Ευχαριστώ πολύ πρώτα απ' όλα για την πρόσκληση και την φιλοξενία, την Εθνική Βιβλιοθήκη. Ελπίζω να ακούγομαι καλά. Και είναι πολύ ενδιαφέρον να ακούμε τα ωραία πράγματα που κάνετε εδώ. Και είμαι ιδιαίτερα χαρούμενος που μιλάμε για Wikidata σήμερα και ειδικά που έχουμε δύο συναδέλφους από την Ιταλία και που είναι πραγματικά ειδικοί στο κομμάτι των Wikidata. Και αυτός είναι και ο λόγος που η παρουσίασή μου θα είναι στα αγγλικά για να έχουμε μια καλύτερη επικοινωνία με τους συναδέλφους. Εγώ θα σας μιλήσω για το Pharos. Είναι η Διεθνής Ένωση Φωτογραφικών Αρχείων που και αφορά λοιπόν το project αυτό όχι αποκλειστικά βιβλιοθήκες, όχι αποκλειστικά βιβλιογραφικά δεδομένα, αλλά βιβλιοθήκες, αρχεία και μουσεία. Let me start by introducing you the consortium I represent today, Pharos. Pharos was established in 2013 by the 14 leading art history institutions. The idea was to make accessible to a global community of researchers rich visual and textual information that are housed in historical photo archives in both Europe and the US. Photo archives have long been essential to the activities of scholars and students of art history, as well as curators and art dealers. Here you can see some photos of 3 reading rooms. These are 3 of the 14 Pharos partners. And you can imagine what it meant until today having access to these collections. So we talk about repositories, collections that were created over a century ago. So these institutions have their origins in collections of art historians mainly, or collectors, that used to collect photographs because at the time that was the main way to compare paintings or other artworks and then attribute a painting to one or the other artist. So all these photographs now are not only important because we have the image of the artwork, but they are important because we have very rich and very high quality textual information, like attributions, like provenance information, that is where a painting, what was the owner, the previous owner of an artwork. And users had really to access these materials, scholars had to access these materials, and that meant traveling a lot and spending lots of money to do that. Pharos was created, as I told you, in 2013 in order to create a common platform, a shared catalog to host all these materials. Pharos is committing to creating a freely available digital research platform that provides consolidated access to roughly 31 million images. Yes, that's right. Of works of art from all periods and all cultures. Its mission includes mainly 3 things: supporting open access, promoting knowledge, and also developing new ways to organize information. So keep in mind those 3 things as I move ahead, because we tried in these last years to have them always in mind. We do want open access, we do want to promote knowledge, and we really want to be innovative and find new ways in organizing information. So a few years ago in 2019, we applied and won a grant from the Mellon Foundation to run a pilot project. Initially, there was 6 out of the 14 institutions that took part, and then a 7th joined. And these are the Biblioteca Hertziana in Rome, the Marburg Volksarchive in Marburg, Germany, the Fondazione Zeri in Bologna, the Frick Art Reference Library in New York, Harvard's Villa Izzati and Kunsthistorisches Institute, both in Florence, and the Paul Mellon Center for Studies in British Art. The project has 5 objectives: to harmonize and integrate different collections without, though, reducing their intellectual content, to create a common platform open to everyone, to document both artistic production and history of photography, and highlight the role of photographs in the discipline, to repurpose the data for new research applications, and lastly, to contribute to the Research Space initiative. Research Space is a platform, a software actually created for the British Museum to organize its rich collections in linked data environment, and we thought that is appropriate for our needs. So you will see a Research Space later on. The basic process that was followed during the implementation consists of the creation of a semantic conceptual model based on the CDOC CRM ontology, the cleaning and normalization of the data, as well as the definition of the mappings between the original format of the data and the conceptual model, the transformation of the data to RDF CRM and the importing to the semantic databases, the entity reconciliation, the IIIF image hosting, and lastly, the querying and visualization of the data using Research Space platform. The conceptual model, and this is just a part of it, was made by George Brusiker from Taking Solutions, who worked with the University of Zurich and on their Swiss art research infrastructure project to create a standard reference model that can help institutions in mapping their own data in CDOC CRM. The final Pharos model will be published together with the SARI model, and will include a set of documentation to help other institutions in implementing this conceptual model for their records. So during, the data transformation employed an ETL workflow which stands for extraction, transform, and load. The source data is extracted through APIs, OAI feeds, or through a manual loading of the data sets to a shared Amazon S3 bucket. These data are then normalized, cleaned through our own APIs, are transformed using X3ML, a mapping language, and then imported to BlazeGraph. Users are then able to review the data in a user interface that allows institutions to review the results. This reconciliation engine is exploiting APIs which are calculating the matching, as I will demonstrate later in detail. I have to say we are thankful to Advanced Services, a Greek company based in Heraklion, Crete, that has assisted us in all technical issues. So during the transformation process, we generated URIs for each entity. For every important decision, the different variables have been included in a shared document, as we want to be as transparent as possible. One of the first steps was to harmonize the different URI policies. We analyzed all the entity types and subtypes, and we created URIs based on combination of fields that give unique IDs and reusability. We also worked very hard to harmonize all of the types for the various entities. And we aligned local institutional types with those from AAT. AAT, for those not related with arts, art data is the art and architecture thesaurus created and maintained by the Getty. So far we have a total of 179 aligned types, which is a very important part of the process because we will be leveraging these terms heavily in the search interface later on. So from the original data sets, we had a total of 250 fields. So you can imagine what it looks having a record with 250 fields from 7 institutions. We did a lot of in-depth analysis of the data, and in consultation with each institution, we were able to merge this into 70 common fields. So these 70 fields form the core of the Pharos data model. We have applied labels to these fields that we thought were appropriate. You can see creator, production date, and also some less common, like influenced by or attribution notes, and so on. And along with the sort weight, you can see on the right that determines where on the record this field will be listed. So the reconciliation of the data is one of the activities that we spend a lot of time, and we keep spending, actually, a lot of time. You have to remember that in this project, we don't mainly work with bibliographical records. We deal with archival materials, whatever that means. You also have to remember that we deal with institutions based in different countries. They use different standards. They catalog in 3 different languages. So we have records in English, German, and Italian. So all that combination makes it really hard to reconcile the terms we use, to reconcile the data. I will not go very much into detail for all the steps that we took for the reconciliation. But I need to tell you that we used several vocabularies, as in all linked data projects, to do the reconciliation. And some of the vocabularies, some of the control vocabularies we used them, what we say as bridge vocabularies, bridge authorities. And we have other vocabularies that are our target authorities. So here you can have an overview of what are the authorities we use for the 5 main entities. We have 2 entities for people, 1 for artists, 1 for photographers. We have an entity for places, another entity for institutions. And institutions is not really only institutions, is what we call repositories. This has been days and days of discussions about what word we should use, because a repository is really a place that owns an artwork. And it can not only be a museum, it can be a church, it can be a monastery, it can be a private collection, it can be many different things. So this is what we mean with institution/repository. And last but not least, we have the entity for the artwork. And you can see that we have no authorities, no either bridge or target authority for that. So what are these bridge and target authorities? The target authority is the authority that we have selected to be visible in the catalog and is the final authority that we choose for that entity. So that means that all artist names should be reconciled against Wikidata and against ULAN. ULAN is the Union List for Artist Names, again created by the Getty. And to do so, we have used the bridge authorities that many times are linked with ULAN and Wikidata. So for instance, the Freak Art Reference Library has cataloged the photographs, the artworks in Mark 21 records, and they have used the Library of Congress as the authority for the artist names. So what we did, we took the LCID, and through VF and Wikidata, we arrived to ULAN. So ULAN is our final authority. And we did this for all the entities that you can see on the list. We had problems with the artworks because our collections are very rich, and there is no database now existed that covers our artworks depicted in the photos. So what we will do is we will create, of course, URIs for every single artwork, and that will function in the future as the main authority at this point worldwide for artworks. Here, very briefly, you can just have an idea of what the situation was before the reconciliation. So this is what, initially, this is just the 6 first institutions, so the Mellon Center is not listed. And you can see what vocabularies the different repositories have used in the past. So I think it's interesting to see similarities and differences. Of course, the 3 German institutions have used the same vocabularies. They use the same system, the same cataloging system, but of course none of the other 3, the American and Italian ones, have used, for instance, the National Library of Germany authorities. Oh, this is, I wanted to make sure to include this because this has been a very helpful database for us. Who is working with photographs should know this. This is called PIC, Photographers Identity Catalog, and is a database with photographers' data created and maintained by the New York Public Library. And this is really a very nice example of what a single librarian can do, because this is a work of a single librarian who has been compiling data about photographers for over 20 years. And this has then been transformed into a database, in a linked data database. So that is our main target authority for photographers. Unfortunately, there is a lot of Greek photographers missing. So this is a nice project for someone that would like to, to do this. Okay, so I talked to you about the importance of our collections, and very early on we decided that one of the important aspects of this project should be the data, should be the metadata. We wanted to have very high quality of metadata because we realized that on the web there is many shared catalogs, many aggregators, but we believe they lack on how they deal with data. You know, all big projects in both Europe and the US, it's hard to find images sometimes. I mean, they have tons of images, but you cannot find them. Or the reconciliation is not done correctly, so the records are not linked between them. So in order to enforce more our good quality metadata we already had, we decided to enrich them with metadata coming from external sources. And here you can see the databases we used to export data. I've already talked to you about ULAN, Wikidata, and PIC, and we also use geonames for geographical data. We took really a lot from them, mainly from Wikidata and ULAN that are very rich. And we took information that we didn't have. So for instance, even simple things like, you know, the nationality of an artist, we didn't have this in our data. The gender of an artist or of a photographer. You can see from Wikidata the sexual orientation, or the residence, or the working location of a person, or even more interesting, the relationships between people. So who artist was a student of whom, or who was influenced by whom. So we took all this data, we included them in our model, and you will see the examples how users can do queries and searches based on the results are based on both our data and the data we took from external providers. So finally, some screenshots of our work. You will see firstly 2 platforms we'll build mainly for internal use for us. And then you will see the main Pharos platform, which is not yet online, but we hope it will be in a couple of months. So this is the vocab platform. We created this platform so that catalogers from all institutions could do the reconciliation for artists, photographers, and repositories. So the way it works is you select the category of entity you want to work, and then you have a list of names, for instance here, for artists. I don't know if you can see very well. So you have the list of names, and on the next column you have the number of suggested matchings that the system suggests. So once you open an artist, you can see on the right, you have on the left side of the screen the data coming from the Pharos partner. So in this case, this painter, Bartolomeo Ligotti, and you can see the data that Itati has. So you have the name, the dates, etc. And then on the right, you have information coming from Getty's ULAN. So what the system does is finding similarities in some fields like name and birth and death dates, and says, look, you have those two very similar things. Is it the same? And then it is the human, it is the cataloger who can say, yes, it is the same, and accept this. So once you accept this, a same as link is created between the two databases, and this is reconciled. It's not easy. I mean, in this case, I found a very easy example, but you can imagine you have hundreds of artists with the same name. You have many uncertainties because we don't really know the date of birth or of death or of birth, sorry. So it should be a human who accepts or rejects the reconciliation. The same is done also for photographers and repositories. And that is tricky again, because then you enter also in other questions like hierarchy, what it means a museum. You know, there is the Louvre, but there is the cabinet of drawings of the Louvre. So what is really a repository? Then you start like philosophical questions of, you know, what is a repository, what is art? This is the second platform we created because apart from matching the entities I showed you before, we definitely wanted to match the artworks. And that was more difficult, because the cataloging, as I told you, has been done in different languages with different standards. So how do you compare this? We created this vision platform, and what the system does, we use the software Pastek, which is a computer vision software, and makes a visual recognition. So that means the system makes the indexing of all millions of photographs, and it makes suggestions based on visual similarities. So in this case, we have two different photographs coming from the Getty and Itati that depict the same painting by Giovanni Bellini. You don't see the entire screen because there was no space, but underneath there is the records, there is information from every single catalog that are in different languages. So the user, that is the cataloger, can read and see if this is really the same artwork or not. This is important for us because we don't want in our catalog to have duplicates. And you know, you may have 40 different records of the same painting, and you don't want users to spend time and browse on the catalog just to see, you know, what you have for a single painting. But of course, you know, all textual information may be different. I mean, the title is different because you don't have a standard title, you don't have an ISBN as in books. So we decided to do that. We set a ratio of similarity that Pastek gives us. So the system, this vision platform, proposes only the matchings above that ratio. So we don't spend time checking everything. And then we realized we have another problem. So in many cases, artworks look the same, but they're not the same. So we tried to convert this, to change this problem, let's say, into a virtue, and to add some more value to our project. And to do so, we created, you can see those buttons on the right. The blue one is the same, so the user says, yes, this is the same painting, but the other buttons say copy of, so you may have a painting that is a copy of another, or you may have a sketch or a preliminary drawing of the final work. And we wanted to have this relationship because these are important for scholars. You may also have a relationship, which is very interesting. I think we took this idea from Wikidata, actually, is part of. So you have an artwork that is part of a larger artwork. Or you have a photo of a detail of a painting, and then you have the whole painting. Or you have like a fresco scene, you have the baptism of Christ in a church, and then the other repository, the other Pharos partner has the entire chapel, you know, the entire cycle of frescoes. So we did create these relationships as much as we could, because you can understand that, like, you know, this is thousands and thousands of matchings. And again, it is only humans, it is only catalogers who accept this reconciliation. Of course, the system does not always bring correct things, so this is an example of, you know, strange suggestions, and that we should reject. But I think it was quite funny, so I wanted to include this photo. Finally, this is the main Pharos platform. The address is artresearch.net. We want this to become the main hub for to document art worldwide. From the homepage, user can do either a keyword search or browse the collections, and then, you know, use traditional filters to refine the results. And there is also a link, you can see visual search, which brings users to the visual platform, and then they can drag and drop their own image on the platform, and the visual recognition can check if, you know, the image you have at home exists also somewhere in one of the repositories. This is something that Google Images also does, but we wanted to compare the images, either your image or an image you found on the web, with our images. But the most important tool that we offer, and then here we are again back to linked data, is what we call the search builder. So Research Space gives us the opportunity, gives users the opportunity to create very easily Sparkle queries. Sparkle queries are not easy for everyone, are not easy for me, for sure. So what happens here is that the user selects two entities. In this case, I selected work, that is artwork, and artist. And then, once you select the two entities you want to search, you can choose from a pickup list what kind of relationship these two entities have. So here, I want artworks created not by a specific artist, in this case Leonardo, but from students of Leonardo. You remember we exported data from Wikidata, the relationships between artists, so I want to use this kind of relationships. And I create this way a triple, an RDF triple. And I can continue like this, and I can create as many triples as I want. So I don't simply want works created by students of Leonardo. I want these paintings also to be owned by a specific museum, and I want that museum to be the Museum of Fine Arts in Budapest. So then once I press enter, the system gives me back 200 results. And in fact, you can see the first result is a painting by Boltraffio, who in fact was working on Leonardo's workshop in Milan, and the painting is in Budapest. We are testing many of these kind of competency, we call them questions. Here in bold, you can see parts of the question that refer to data we exported and imported. So, you know, you can search for artworks only by female artists that were active in Venice. You remember residence or, you know, all this working location information in a specific date. Or I want to see sculptures depicting mythological figures that were only had as father Zeus by Italian. You know, you can do weird things then. I'm about to finish, and I just wanted to give you, so you have a look at what is an artwork record. Again, the records are very big, so this is a part of it, but just wanted to mention to you that on the right hand, where you have all the data, you see the small logos. We insisted on that. That was not an easy thing to do, and these are the logos of the different partners and the logos of the external databases we used. We wanted users to have a reference to every single piece of information we offer. This is not only for the general public, this is for researchers, and it is important they know the source of every piece of information. I mean, this is what makes librarians special, you know, compared to the general web. And this is the authority record, let's say, a record for an artist. This is Andrea Verrocchio's record. Again, you can see all pieces of information and the logos of the source for every piece of information. And you can see the logos on the top left side. These are the logos of the Pharos partners that have reconciled this artist with their database. And on the right, from the other side, the external authorities and vocabularies that have been reconciled with that. Very fastly, just to mention that this kind of project have huge intellectual property issues. We have organized a workshop just before COVID in 2020, and we have published the results of it. We deal with 3 different legislations: Europe, US, and the UK, which makes it a nightmare. And our photos have different layers of intellectual property issues. We have photographers' intellectual property, collectors, museums, you know, whatever you can imagine. So this is, you can consult this on our website. And really, last but not least, we also provide IIIF image hosting. I'm not going to go into detail, but our partners can have been given access to upload their images to the Amazon S3 buckets, and they can deposit images. And users then can create an account, can save the images they want, can annotate on the image, can copy-paste the IIIF manifest and take all the data and edit photos or annotate them and do whatever they want. In the coming months, 3 more repositories will join this project. That is the National Gallery of Art in Washington, the Netherlands Institute of Art History, and the Yale Center for British Art, while later on the 4 remaining institutions of Pharos will join. And these are the Warburg and Courtauld Institute in London, the Institut National de l'Art in Paris, and the Getty Research Institute. We are very happy that just 3 or 4 weeks ago, the executive board has accepted for the first time a new member, and this is Dumbarton Oaks in Washington. So we are very happy that more information about kinds of art that have not been included until today will be present, and that include pre-Columbian civilizations, Byzantine art and architecture, and garden planning and landscapes. We are very happy to welcome new members. We are particularly interested on non-Western art and underrepresented groups of artists or photographers. Here is 2 collections we have created about architecture in the Middle East and women artists, but we want to move ahead and add more about artists from the LGBT community or artists from other parts of the world like Africa. Thank you so much. I hope was okay with the time. Thank you.